World of Warcraft has a villain problem. The 8th expansion to World of Warcraft is fast approaching, and Battle for Azeroth has shown us that Blizzard have the capability to work a decent story. Generally, the story of BFA has been well received. The zone stories for Zandalar and Kul Tiras are fun, interesting and engaging, and the war campaign has the player travelling the world to fight the opposing faction. But that all kind of falls down when we take a step back and look at what will ultimately be the main focus of any expansion's story: the villain. Blizzard's plans have all come to fruition. They've played the long game, and it's going to blow your mind. Early into Legion, Sylvanas, a fan favourite character whose personal story has seen the character develop in a satisfying and interesting way, is finally thrust into the limelight as War Chief of the Horde. It's clear that she's up to no good, but what it is remains shrouded in mystery. BFA rolls along, and the theories spring into action. We begin to experience the faction war in full force. Teldrassil and Undercity have seen ruin befall them, and Sylvanas waits in the shadows biding her time. We, as Horde players, don't interact much with the War Chief, instead taking instructions from her trusted advisor Nathanos. We see more of her in the war campaign as things start to heat up and rebellion brews among some of the Horde leaders. A mana bomb is dropped on Theramore. Wait, sorry, that's the wrong expansion. Sylvanas' story is the biggest failure of Battle for Azeroth. For the majority of our time spent exploring the story of BFA, we spend very little time experiencing the actions of the expansion's villain until the final moments, which we don't actually directly even participate in. The storylines of the questing zones are great, but there are no cool moments of Sylvanas hamming it up as leader of our forces or as perpetual pain in our sides, besides those isolated moments in the war campaign. There are no recurring members of the enemy faction that appear to show us the evolution of the Fourth War. Only disposable officers on ill-fated incursions. The expansion's final boss of N'Zoth is teased throughout the actions of the Tide Sages and other mobs, but has practically no involvement in the story until the final patch, where to many, he seems to show up out of nowhere. Frustratingly, Blizzard have shown that they are capable of better than this in previous expansions. Wrath of the Lich King is often praised for many aspects of the game, and its storytelling is certainly one of them, and that is for a very simple reason. Wrath of the Lich King is the only expansion to feature an antagonist as the villain. Aren't they the same thing? Well, no. The terms may be used interchangeably, but there is a small difference that changes everything. A villain is an evil character whose actions motivate the plot. They do bad things, cause bad things to happen, and get the plot moving. An antagonist, on the other hand, is more personal. They don't even have to be a villain. An antagonist is just someone who's actively opposes or is hostile to another character, and that is what is missing from WoW. In Wrath of the Lich King, Arthas was undoubtedly the villain, with a big plan to kill the greatest champions of Azeroth and raise them as an elite undead fighting force to conquer the world. But his actions throughout the story also made him an antagonist. Arthas showed up in the quest zones and dungeons to taunt the player, to empower or kill his subjects, or even just to watch as your skills and power grew. Arthas had his undead hands all over the expansion. He was there at every twist and turn to be a thorn in your side, to actively oppose the actions of the player, the Horde, and Alliance, and work against you as you disrupted his plans. When players finally started to set foot in Icecrown Citadel and its associated dungeons, it wasn't just for epic loot. There was a score to settle. You and Arthas had been locked in battle for the entire expansion, and there was a constant reminder that the threat of the Lich King was ever present, and that made moments like the infamous chase fight truly memorable. Our actions within the story gained meaning and agency because of that opposition. The story became personal to the player. BFA was an attempt to recreate that feeling not fully embraced. The war campaign was a good start, but the compartmentalized zones left the story feeling disconnected from the rest of the game. Shadowlands and future expansions are an opportunity to take a look back at what made the story of Wrath of the Lich King great and mix it with the polish and narrative capability of the modern WoW experience. Blizzard, make sure that Sylvanas and the Jailer interact with the player as often as possible throughout the questing experience. Have zones that feel like they are a part of an overarching story, like each zone of Northrend felt like pushing further into the heartland of the Scourge to bring the fight to the Lich King. Don't be afraid to let us interact with the people we are supposed to be fighting against. Let us foster a connection to our actions in the story through their opposition to us. Story is all about human moments, and that is something that Blizzard never got quite right in the same way after Wrath of the Lich King. Go big, go cosmic, let us save the universe and everything in it from destruction. Just remember that it's the small moments that players get invested in on a personal level. WoW has plenty of villains. What it needs is an antagonist.